Hello everyone and welcome to another high-low game of Age of Empires. Today, take a few deep breaths, center yourself, and don't panic as the Viper playing as the Malians in the color blue takes on Solara playing as the Huns in the color yellow. Now while the players herd their herdables explore their immediate cracked terrain surroundings and try to get their busts up to Castle Age because we're in Empire Wars mode today, why don't we take a look at the Civ matchup that we are going to be watching today? Right as our Malian, chases a little bit too far. The Viper taking a bit of damage on his scout and now has to get the hell out of here. The Malians, as I was about to say, are a powerful civilization whose infantry come with free extra pierce armor as the game goes on and whose cavalry can be upgraded to get a pretty strong +5 attack boost. Now, combining the mobility of cavalry with the relatively lower cost of infantry, their unique unit is the Gabeto, a fast ranged melee unit similar to the Frankish throwing axeman, except the Gabeto throws a Kapinga instead of an axe. Now, economically, Malian gold miners do drop off 10% more gold, and all of their buildings except for their farms cost 15% less wood. If you want to keep your villagers, by the way, safe and productive, the Malians can upgrade their town centers to actually fire 8 arrows when ungarrisoned and up to 18, I'll say that again, 18 arrows when fully garrisoned. Now, taking a look at the villager that the Viper is attacking, the Huns, a civilization that takes the fight to its enemies with speed and mobility. Their cav archers become progressively cheaper as the game goes on. Their trebs fire more accurately at units, and their stables work 20% faster than usual, which is great because the Huns can upgrade their stables to train their unique unit, the Tarkin. This is a medium cavalry unit with a lot of pierce armor that specializes in tearing down building structures and generally causing a lot of ruckus in the late game. Now, economically, the Huns don't need any houses since they start the game. Take a look at the top of your screen with the full 200 population available to them. First blood drawn by the Viper, and of all things, was it the Spearman? Was it the villager? Oh, the Viper's villagers. Town center gets a second kill as well. Might have had an opportunity to reduce some HP off of this scout, but the Viper feeling very generous today. Only kills 2/3 of the invading Hunnic force as he begins moving out. Now, as I was mentioning, the Huns don't need any houses, since if you take a look at the top of your screen where my mouse is circling the number 200, they do start every game with 200 population space already available. It looks like Solara is going to be evening up the kill count 2-2 here. By the way, that does free up a little bit more wood for the Huns so that they can train those discounted cavalry archers. And as always in Empire Wars, we have a lot of action real quick, as now Solara takes a 3rd kill, with the Viper also having gotten a 3rd kill, but he is here with these archers. They just got a 4th kill as well, and their first villager kill of the game, by the way. And let's take a look at the map itself. We're on Cliffbound, which is Socotra meeting Maze Runner. Not a lot of area in the center and lots of cliffs. Cannot traverse this part of the map, and unlike Socotra, there are a lot of cracked terrain tiles on this map. If you're not familiar with how cracked terrain works, let's zoom into, or maybe zoom out and show you the broader picture here. Any structure whose center point touches cracked terrain, if it gets attacked, takes 20% more damage. And so that makes structures in the center of the map incredibly unstable and incredibly susceptible to being taken down, especially by perhaps a unit designed to take down buildings. Kill lead in a matter of minutes has jumped to 12-8. It looks like our Hun has finally gotten villager kills of his own, 2 kills to 1 in terms of civilian population. But the Viper lashes out, gets a scout, might be able to get one more skirmisher before they retreat. With their minimum range, it does make them very susceptible to being chased down and hunted as they retreat from a battle. The Viper continuing to pivot up here to the north. He has seen, perhaps, that this area is not quite as populated as the south with buildings, and so he'll have a lot more room to maneuver. I'm very excited to see this game, fingers crossed, go to the late stages, because these are 2 ridiculously powerful civilizations in the late stages of the game. Although the Malians, with their gold income bonus, remember their villagers do drop off 10% more gold. They do have an economic edge, I believe, over the Huns, although never discount the fact that you don't need any houses. Although that does come with the flip side. I'm trying not to be too pedantic and saying, you know, it depends, because on the one hand, the Huns don't need houses. They do start the game with the full population space. It also does come at the cost of 100 wood. from the very beginning of the game, and it also means they can't actually build houses, which means quicker wall-offs. You're going to have to rely, if you want a 2x2 structure, you're going to have to pay full price, 100 wood, for some kind of mining camp, lumber camp, mill, or then just rely on your palisades. Or in this case, like Solara, don't rely on anything and don't wall this all off at all. Viper does manage to get another villager kill here, does even up the villager kill lead, and is coming very, very close with this one scout to evening up the total kill lead. I'm surprised the Viper is sticking around with these archers, and now he does even it up. Surprised, having seen so many skirmishers out of his opponent, that he is sticking around with archers. By the way, if you're not familiar with Empire Wars mode and why we're playing this as part of the Red Bull Wololo El Reinado qualifier stage, although it's not technically, I guess, a qualifier stage, basically all the Elos for Empire Wars have been reset, which is why, if you're wondering why the hell is the Viper's Elo 1647, that doesn't sound right. The Empire Wars Elos have been reset about a month ago, and everyone has an opportunity to play as much Empire Wars as they want and can. And on July 28th, the top 4 players will be invited to a castle in Spain. Well, actually, I shouldn't say on July 28th they'll be invited. On July 28th, the player with the highest, the 4 players with the highest Elos, you know, I've said this so many times, I should probably just have a script for it. The 4 players with the highest Empire War Elos will get an invitation to a castle. Looks like the Viper lost his archers here. A castle in Spain for the Red Bull Wololo El Reinado tournament that will be happening in October. Viper's losing a lot of archers, by the way. His army count is 3 to 13, and I've said this before about the Viper. He is very comfortable with not a lot of army. And sometimes he gets punished for it, sometimes he doesn't. It looks like another villager kill here for our Hun, who, despite having a discount on cav archers, does not have any kind of discount on melee cavalry like the knight. And there is a big defensive castle already in play here for the Viper, our Malian, who is going with 2 Gabetos. Interesting that he's countering the knights with Gabetos. I thought for sure he would go with camels. Malian Farimba camels, that is the name of the upgrade that gives their camels and their cavalry a +5 attack boost. What was this? Okay, for some reason I thought there was a villager underneath that ostrich. There is not. And I am blind as a bat. But that Farimba upgrade, the Malians don't get paladins. They don't get hussars. But with Farimba, their cavaliers actually have a higher attack than paladins, and their light cav, their camel riders, are pretty much some of the most powerful in the game. But for now, the Viper opting for the ranged melee unit known as the Gabeto, as these Hunnic Knights continue running amok. 7 villager kills to 2. Our Hun has taken a significant kill lead as well, 34 to 25. The Viper is slowly cleaning this up. Gabetos are not super duper expensive. I think they're only 40 gold. But a town center. This is a situation, if you see your opponent being this aggressive and you're the Malians, you need that Tigui upgrade, the one that makes your town centers fire 8 arrows when ungarrisoned and 18 when fully garrisoned. I always stutter at that number because it's just such a ludicrous number. 18 arrows when fully garrisoned. I mean, it's also ludicrous to fire 8 arrows when you're not garrisoned. You're not exactly a castle or a Krepost or a Castle Age donjon here. But the Gabeto is enough to shoo these knights away. Moving in a straight line, they do take a bunch of Kapingas to the back, and here we go. The famous, infamous Hunnic Cav Archer has arrived. Okay, they get another villager. 12 villager kills to 2. The Viper is down only 5 villagers. He's down 5 army count, which tells us his priority right now is getting his villager numbers up. Let's compare the stats here because the range should be not identical, but similar. Yeah, so the Cav Archer base of a 4, the Gabeto base of a 5, which is a pretty interesting thing for a ranged melee. Oh my god! The Viper! He just corralled and trapped these knights in here. And this is what I'm talking about. When you're playing the Huns, you can't do stuff like this unless you want to spend 300 wood. I mean, again, you can always delete it afterwards, but you can't just plop down a house super duper quickly. That was so sour for a Solara, who loses a whole bunch of knights for nothing. And now his Cav Archers, which, by the way, even though he's in Castle Age, don't have ballistics, don't have bloodlines, even though they do have Bodkin. So both of these ranged units engaging very much within their range. Now what they do have is 50 HP. Oh my goodness, my clicking skills are so bad. To the 40 of the Gebeto. But remember, the Gebeto does melee attack, much like the throwing axeman, the Mameluke. So the Cav archers, who generally don't have the greatest armor, see there's 0-0. They're going to struggle a little bit if this game goes into the late stage against Gebetos. And I wonder if this is exactly why the Viper went Gebetos, expecting to see Cav archers out of his opponent. Although knights, they have a decent amount. So we'll see whether or not. No, for now, Hun has abandoned knights. What is this? A juicy sacrifice to the Malian gods as the Cav archers fire on you? What was the point of sending those skirmishers there? It looks like, by the way, another castle here for the Viper, who loses another villager, loses a monk, converts a Cav archer, but we'll see how long this Cav archer survives. I mean, bloodlines would be a good upgrade to get right now. So would ballistics. Viper deletes his own house, needs to get the hell out of here. He is at 57 out of 100 population, so I think he can safely delete a house or two. But as he's attempting to snipe villagers, these Gebetos are having a field day. One annoying thing that I found about ranged melee that I'm sure anyone who's played this game has found is that they tend to miss a lot, and there is no ballistics upgrade for ranged melee. And so when your opponent's units are moving, those Kapinga, I mean, obviously when they stop like that, but when they move like that, there is a lot of missed fire. These skirmishers really want to kill. And again, you see how the Kapinga's fired and the Kapinga's missed. I've said this, I think, during a live stream or maybe during a previous video, that there really needs to be an upgrade that gives ranged melee a similar thing to ballistics or arquebus. I mean, ballistics here would be absolutely fantastic for our Hun, who still doesn't have it 21 minutes into the game. It looks like Viper is raiding with a single Gebeto with 7 kills. 7 villager kills, 9 total kills. And he stops yet again, face to face. The Gebeto is a unit you do not want to face to face if you do not have bloodlines. You have 1 armor with 0 base and only 10 more HP. That 10 attack compared to your 8 is going to wreck you, as Solara is very much finding out. But as long as he keeps moving, he should be able to use his longer range, even though it's just 1 tile, to outmaneuver these Gebetos. And by the way, speaking of outmaneuvering, the space on the map for maneuvering period is running low because the Viper is placing down yet another castle, a 3rd one. This Gebeto in the back, up to 18 kills. What the hell is going on? By the way, that Gebeto has a decent amount of line of sight, and so he sees exactly what Solara is doing. And the question is, what is Solara doing? He is going quantity over quality, and now he's getting zoned out in the middle. Extra stone, extra gold being taken here by the Viper. Very safe and sound within the comfort of the castle's protective shadow there. Oh my goodness. These Gebetos are two-shotting the Cav archers right now. Tell me the... Okay, so the Gebeto here to the back died. We'll have seen a lot of that action in picture-in-picture. That was a ridiculous number of villager kills, and the Viper takes a villager kill lead and a total kill lead as well, as his Gebetos are now, some of them on the high ground. These Cav archers are not getting upgraded. They're at a +2, +1, and since then, they haven't had a single upgrade. Whereas the Viper still has 16 villagers on stone. Oh, never mind, that's now 9 because he's placing another castle. Now remember, these castles, they take 20% more damage. Although there's not really much that the Hun has here that is going to damage them. Our Hun is sitting on 700 gold. Let's see what he's planning behind this. 4 archery ranges is decent. 2 stables is decent. He's got 3 relics to the 0 of the Viper. Although, good luck getting this relic and this relic. I guess this relic's a little bit more realistic if you can maneuver your monk around the north side here. But the Viper is very quickly approaching 100 kills. Solara, not too far behind at 83, is only down 2 villager kills. So as much as I was fanboying over that one Gebeto here, and look, you can still see the bodies of her victims. Oh my goodness. Solara has been dishing it out as good as he's been receiving it. But now there's a whole body of Gabetos, +1, +2, 5 range still intact. And now they're going after the relics. And again, because they do melee damage, man, do they take structures down so fast. Are they, by the way, like throwing axemen that they have a decent attack bonus against buildings? Yeah, +2. Viper peels 2 of them off to go after the monk. He gets the monk as the rest evict the relics. And now the automatic relic generation of our Hun is over. But he's got 11 villagers on gold to the Viper's 13. The problem is that he's kind of been inserted into a nook. The not so big problem is that the eastern portion of the map still has a lot of resources. This is 6,300 precious resources, but all of a sudden, the military industrial complex is not there, and Solara chooses this moment to go up to Imperial. You've got the Viper breathing down your neck to the right with a very mobile, very destructive army. To the left, the exact same thing. 12 and 5 make 17 Gabetos and a castle as well. TC down. And oh no. Solara is being strangled to the north, to the south. He has one army, and we're looking at it. These are his cav archers. Why not move to the high ground? They are absolutely melting, and oh no. I don't think Solara realized that he didn't have ballistics and bloodlines. I mean, I would maybe prioritize bloodlines at this point. I mean, 20 extra HP is not a bad thing to have. Basically means what? 2 or 3 more? Man, maybe just 2 more shots of the Kapinga, which look how freaking cool it is. I didn't realize they double fisted like the warrior priest or the Shotel warrior. Interesting. Okay, that's pretty cool. But the Viper, oh my goodness, says, hey, I'm playing against cav archers, so I know what to do. I'm just going to put up a whole bunch of static defense. You're not going to be able to run around these very easily. And even if you do, you're not really going to get too much accomplished. There's not really anywhere that these villagers can't run into that's not protected by a castle or the one town center play of the Viper, who ends the game with more than 9 times the army of his opponent. And is it a big surprise? Solara went 3 town center Imperial Age to the Viper's 1 town center ridiculous Castle Age aggression. And aggression, by the way, with a unit that based on the stats is the much better unit, even though, again, it does come with shorter range and a little bit less HP. 1 attacks on an 8, 1 attacks on a 12. One has 1 armor against the attack, 1 has 2 against the attack. And the movement speed really isn't that big of a difference, especially on a map as small as Cliffbound, which, as I mentioned, is basically Socotra, with a lot of more shaky, wobbly buildings. The Leaning Tower of Pisa is basically built on this map, on Cliffbound. And ultimately, even though the Viper did have a super cool time here with that 1 Gabeto, he ends up the game only 5 villager kills ahead. So Solara did a good amount of damage earlier on, but didn't capitalize on that damage and then went full eco, perhaps expecting the Viper, who, to be fair, has been known to turtle up and be a little what some shit posters on Reddit would call greedy, although I would just call it building up his economy. And he has been known to do that, although in this game he has been showing these Gabetos for the longest time. And so I'm a little bit surprised that Solara went full on eco and had made 0 attempt to wall this off. He's got 750 stone, not a single castle, and he ends the game with 18 more villagers. And I guess he's going to be buried with them like the pharaohs of old, I guess. I don't know. He went a little bit too hard on the eco, and the Viper went very hard on the military, perhaps realizing it's one of those situations where he knows or suspects he knows what the Viper is going to do, but the Viper knows that he knows that the Viper knows that he knows the Viper knows what's going on. And so the Viper outknows his opponent, gets up 37 freaking Gabetos, upgrades them as well as he can in Castle Age, pretty much fully upgraded for Castle Age, and just now and there's enough army here to just rip this Hunnic base apart. And we saw how quickly they take down structures with their melee attacks. Buildings, if you're not familiar, have a lot more pierce armor than they do melee armor, and so not surprising that these buildings fall super quick. Plus, the Gabeto attacks in a 2-second delay with a 2 plus 2 attack bonus against buildings. 80 Gabetos, 49 cav archers, and the rest is basically just noise, except for these knights who did get a good amount of villager kills in the beginning. I shouldn't say the beginning, towards the middle of the game. Look at the Vipers, PKPM literally 30 seconds ago. There you go. PKPM for Solara about 7 or 8 minutes ago. Economy, Solara is of course ahead, but like I said, like the pharaohs of old, he's going to be buried with his treasure. Like Beowulf, he will be sent out onto the river with his golden horn and his 18 extra villager kills, or 18 extra villagers, period, and still loses the game, but in an interesting economic fashion. The Viper, 6 raisings, of course. Conversions 1 apiece, so not really playing a super duper role at the end of the day. 113 kills to 91. So the game was close up until about 6 or 7 minutes ago, I would say, when one player decided, hey, I'm going to expand economically and try to rush up to Imperial Age. And the other player says, okay, I think you're trying to expand economically and rush to Imperial Age. So I'm going to rush out 4 castles, zone you out of the entire left side of the map, even though you still have the right. Best believe the Viper with 12 villagers on stone, 800 more stone, is going to place a castle probably like right here, if not right here, or maybe right here now that he sees there's no army left. But in this particular case, the Viper punishing the greed, quote unquote, of the opponent. I don't like that word greed. I'm just going to say the focus on economy of his opponent. And even though his opponent did a good job shuffling the relics backwards, he does end the game with 2 relics to the 0 of the Viper. Ultimately, the Viper's decision to invest in full-on military, which, by the way, if you look at the resources for our Hun, if he had gone maybe a little bit less on food and a little bit more on wood, could have had a potentially sizable amount of cav archers with ballistics, and bloodlines would have made a difference. I think this is really what kind of screwed over our Hun at the end, missing those upgrades. And with those missing upgrades, his army just melts in front of the Guerreros, even though, again, they are meting out enough kills. They are giving as good as they're taking. Unfortunately, what they're giving, there's not enough of them to give, and there's way more of the enemy to give, to take, to give, to take. I don't know. It's all very, very, very confusing terminology. The point is the Viper built way too big of an army. Solara built way too big of an economy. And in this game, economy, as much as it's important, does not win you a game against army unless you can actually train units, which the Viper has completely crippled our Hun's ability to train army. 4 archery ranges and 2 stables have become 1 archery range and 1 stable. And with that, even though he's got resources flowing out of his ears, Solara taps out. He cannot keep fighting. He cannot keep losing these units, not as he's going up to Imperial. And the Viper surrounds to the north, surrounds to the south, and with that surrounds, takes the W, but GG in a fun back and forth to both players. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips and make sure to subscribe and enable notifications so that you're notified of my latest uploads.